Hello, we are very educated Egyptian historians who have degrees in Egyptology, Alexis, Addison, Ilhan, and Izzy, and from the 1st of June through the 14th of June 2024, we would like to take you on a trip throughout Egypt that will not only educate you, but also your students who may be interested in the colonization and history of this vast country. We will visit Cairo, Aswan, the Suez Canal, and finally Alexandria to immerse you in an expansive and continuing history of an African country that has struggled with being colonized. So here is Egypt and its colonization. Located in northeast Africa and just under the southwest corner of Asia lies Egypt, a country that has some of the oldest civilizations ever to exist. And according to LiveScience.com, it is estimated that the oldest human presence was up to 400,000 years ago. Throughout Egyptian history, civilizations and kingdoms came together and fought, but relevant in our trip is one factor: colonization. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great defeated the armies of the Persian Empire and colonized Egypt, which led to further European rule in the future. However, after centuries of Roman rule, colonization was not done. In 1882, the British Empire colonized Egypt, which was also after the French occupation by Napoleon, who had conquered Cairo and was heading towards the pyramids with his armies, though Napoleon was defeated by Sir Horatio Nelson in the Battle of the Nile, which occurred on August 8, 1798. British occupation was designated to have control over the Suez Canal, as the canal is excellent to have access to in maritime transport. Having any port on this canal is desired, even in 2023. And clearly, the Egyptian population was not very happy with the lack of independence. So, from 1919 to 1922, they protested and rioted as formed to become independent from Britain. Slowly, Egypt has slowly become more independent, but traits from when the French and British occupied are still slightly prevalent, as well as modern-day dependencies due to their usage of the Suez Canal. Overall, we will show you why Egypt is so important historically and why you should know its history of being colonized. Your total budget for the trip is $4,392.76, or just $4,400 to round up. The Egyptian pound is worth less than the US dollar, so while considering the currency exchange, your budget will consist of a possible $100 a day on food and souvenirs, at most $20 a day on public transport if needed, and bring enough clothes and necessities such as toothbrushes, toothpaste, sunscreen, and possibly even shampoo for at least 13 days. We will be staying in Cairo, Aswan, Alexandria for an average of 3 days each, and I will now tell you exactly what your trip is going to contain through our itinerary. On our first day, we will be making our departure from Minneapolis, Minnesota by taking the Amtrak from downtown to the ORD, or Chicago O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, Illinois, which is $126 round trip. Then take our flight to the Cairo International Airport, which costs $1,128 for a road trip. Then head to the Location Hotel in the city of Cairo for $38 a night to unpack and prepare for the busy and educational days ahead of us. On day 2, we will use our rental car, which will be rented for 3 days from the Cairo International Airport, to explore the city of Cairo in all its glory, as well as get some walking in. Remember, Egypt is full of historic landmarks outside of the well-known major ones. On day 3, we will head to the Pyramids of Giza and the Great Sphinx, and even go inside 2 pyramids for $27 in total. Typically, people know Egypt exclusively through the pyramids, but we will be going over in depth their historical importance in Napoleon's work of colonization. Our 4th day will be spent admiring and learning about the Mosque of Muhammad Ali, considering we all dress appropriately. Their entrance fee is $49.09 in US dollars, which is the total amount of your money that will go towards this event. The 5th day will be a long but worthwhile car trip to the Suez Canal, which is incredibly important in Egypt's history and modern relationship with other countries that have ports on the body of water. Then a flight from Cairo to Aswan for $132. On our 6th day, we will see the Philae Temple, Visit the Nubian Museum and see some ancient artifacts. Then, see the Aswan High Dam. Nubian people are still existing people who primarily live in southern Egypt. So, learning about the history of Nubian people is relevant in Egyptian history, especially for an educator. The total cost for day 6 will be less than $10 US, and the Aswan High Dam is free to enter. On our 7th day, we will utilize public transport for $1 to $4 as the cost varies, and we will see the Elephantine Temple, Abu Simbel Temple, and the unfinished obelisk of Aswan. Then head to the Botanical Kitchener's Island cruise by taking a boat. The day total is $60.87. On day 8, we will take a boat to the Aga Khan Mausoleum, visit the Temple of Kom Ombo, and take a private boat to the Monastery of St. Simon, a total of $80.24 for the whole day. The 3 of these lean into religion amongst your Egyptians through in a historical matter. Day 9 is our flight from Aswan to Alexandria, which is the last city we will visit. Our hotel is the Sea Star Hotel for $17 a night, and we will use this day to settle and rejuvenate after a busy week. On day 10, you will learn about the history of the Library of Alexandria, which was burnt down by Julius Caesar, someone who many people might be familiar with, destroying an immense amount of historical books, and then head to its previous location for $4.85 as an admission fee. On day 11, we will explore the historic Souk district, which is lively with residents currently and many shops and vendors. This will be the time to immerse yourself in active Egyptian culture and even bring back educational objects for your students to observe and learn about as you teach. On day 12, we will view the Antiquities Museum with an entrance fee of $4.85 US. The museum is full of Egyptian antiquities, which is defined as old relics from the past, thus the name. And visiting here will expand your historical knowledge of Egyptian objects. On day 13, our final full day in Egypt, we have a scuba diving tour planned to do something you may have never done before, regardless of its Egyptian history, costing $300 per person. We will be finally wrapping up on day 14, but also unfortunately, where we will be busing from Alexandria to Cairo International Airport for $1 to $4 US and fly to Chicago. Again, our flight will be round trip, so refer to the previous cost. We will then again be taking the Amtrak from Chicago to Minneapolis, which ends our tour of post-colonization Egypt. Ahead, we will dive deeper into the meanings of each landmark and location that we will visit and why they are so relevant in Egypt's history regarding colonization, general history, and why they are important to teach to upcoming historians, as well as further your understanding and teaching skills of colonization and Egypt.
Hi, this is Izzy, and I will be leading us through most of the itinerary for Cairo, and this is where we will be starting off our trip. For some background, Cairo is Egypt's capital and most populous city. The metropolitan area is the largest in the Middle East and the Arab world, and the 15th largest in the world. Cairo has long been a focus of the region's political and cultural life, and it is known as the City of 1,000 Minarets, in quotes, due to its predominance of Islamic architecture. We will start off our day early by taking a cab to Giza. This will be about a 30-minute drive outside of Cairo, and this will be to see the Great Pyramids of Giza. The pyramids were built around 2570 BC, and they are the oldest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The pyramids were built as tombs to house the bodies of 3 pharaohs to help guide them to their afterlife. How they were built is one of Egypt's biggest mysteries to this day. They were built roughly between 2550 and 2490 BC, by Pharaoh Khufu, Pharaoh Khafre, and Pharaoh Menkaure. It is best to arrive at the pyramids first thing in the morning at about 7 a.m. when they open. This is so we can avoid heat and the crowds, because the tombs and crypts are so small, it can end up just being a big line and queue of people waiting to go see the tombs. We will first be touring the Pyramid of Khufu. This is the biggest of the 3 pyramids. The interior chambers and passageways of Khufu's pyramid are unique and include a number of enigmatic features. Khufu's mortuary complex, or tomb, it also included 7 large boat pits. 5 of these are located east of the pyramid and were models. These brick-lined boat-shaped elements were probably intended for use in the afterlife to transport the king to his desired destinations. Often in these tombs, they would be provided lots of goods, food, like servants, and just things they would need to help them carry them to the afterlife. There's also a museum outside of the pyramids to view some of these boats. After we visit the Pyramid of Khufu, we will head up to the panorama point, where we will have a view of the 3 main pyramids with Giza in the background. This is perfect for any photo ops, really, and I think it's good to be able to capture the memories we make on this trip. It's quite a long walk, so we have the option of hiring a horse carriage, at least for the way up, so it's easier. It's about 100 Egyptian euros each way for the carriage ride. After we finish up at the panorama point, we will head to the group of pyramids on the southern edge of the Giza necropolis. At about 14 feet tall, the Pyramid of Menkaure is the smallest of the 3 pyramids. We won't be entering the tomb of Menkaure just because it is very small and cramped, and it is an empty room and very similar compared to the other 2 we will be visiting, just to save some time for our day. The final pyramid on our itinerary is the most well-recognized of the 3, and this is the Pyramid of Khafre. Even though it's the second tallest and second largest of the pyramids, and many people mistake this pyramid for the Great Pyramid, this is primarily due to its position directly behind the statue of the Sphinx, and because it's managed to retain some of the original limestone outer casing at the top, giving it an iconic silhouette. After that, we will head to the Sphinx. The Great Sphinx is carved from bedrock of the Giza Plateau. The lion was a royal symbol, as well as being connected with the sun as a symbol of the horizon. The fusion of this powerful animal with the head of the pharaoh was an icon that survived and was often used throughout Egyptian history. The king's head is on a smaller scale than the body, and this appears to have been due to a defect in the stone or a weakness recognized by the sculptors, who compensated by elongating the body. After a long morning of being in the hot, sandy desert, we will go to the Pyramids restaurant, which is right outside the gate near the Sphinx, to rest up and get some lunch. And after we are all rested up and fueled for the rest of our day, we will be visiting Coptic Cairo. We will visit the fortress of Babylon, which dates back to the Roman Empire and contains a concentration of historic Orthodox Christian churches. It is important to wear head coverings while entering these churches out of respect for their culture. Coptic Cairo is relatively small, and in a confined area, so we will easily be able to walk between all the different sites. Our first stop in Coptic Cairo will be St. Mary's Coptic Orthodox Church, which is also known as the Hanging Church. This church is one of the oldest churches in Egypt, and the history of the church on this site dates back to the 3rd century. It belongs to the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria. The Hanging Church is built on top of the gates of an old Roman fortress, which is why it's led to the nickname the Hanging Church. After we tour the church, we will head to the Coptic Museum, where you can find the world's most extensive collection of Coptic Christian artifacts. The exhibits include beautiful stonework and Christian icons, as well as the oldest known Book of Psalms. The real highlight of this museum, however, is the building itself. It is full of stained glass windows and intricately detailed ceilings. So it's just really beautiful, even without looking at all the artifacts. After we finish up with the Coptic Museum, we will head to the Greek Orthodox Church of St. George. This church was initially built in 684 AD by the wealthy scribe Athanasius. This religious site is known for its beautiful wedding chamber that dates back to the 4th century, with high vaulted central dome, beautiful murals, and endless amounts of gold work. Many say that the interior of this church is the most impressive in Coptic Cairo. Next, we will head to the St. Sergius and Bacchus Church, which is traditionally believed to have been built where the Holy Family, Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus Christ, rested at the end of their journey into Egypt. It is said they may have lived here while Joseph worked in the fortress.
Next on our itinerary is the Suez International Museum, which overlooks the Suez Canal. It is a 2-hour drive from the hotel in Cairo. The Suez Canal is a historic site that has been used by Europeans to travel to Asia and has been the cause of many conflicts in the region, including the revolt of 1879 and the subsequent occupation by the British in 1882. After the creation of the Suez Canal, European countries like France and the UK wanted control of it as a route to Asia. Egypt was deep in debt, and the British and French were able to take advantage of this to get offered positions in government. This led to dissatisfaction among Egyptians, and in 1879 there was a revolt against the government and against British presence, and Britain ended up invading Egypt and taking total control until they could ensure their usage of the Suez Canal. After a day at the Suez Canal, we will visit the city of Aswan in southern Egypt. Aswan is home to many Egyptian monuments and Nubian villages. The Nubians are a group indigenous to southern Egypt and northern Sudan. Many of them reside in Aswan. Aswan is also right on the Nile River, an important historic trade route. Hotels here cost about $30 a night, and our hotel is the Mango Guest House on an island in the Nile River. The plane ticket from Cairo to Aswan will cost just under $100 per person. Once we make it to Aswan on our first day, we will be visiting the Philae Temple to the Egyptian god Isis. Isis is the god of healing and magic, making this temple important to the origin and culture of ancient Egypt. The Philae Temple is considered to be one of the last places where ancient Egypt's religion survived. It is a tiny island in the Nile River that actually consists of many structures built over centuries. We will also be visiting the Nubian Museum during this stay in Aswan. The museum contains over 3,000 artifacts, an amphitheater for Nubian folklore, and a cave with ancient writing. The creation of the museum required $75 million, and it was finished in 1997. The building also has beautiful gardens outside that can be explored. Next in the day, we will visit the Aswan High Dam, which is nearly 4,000 meters long and costed $1 billion to construct. The city was actually experiencing terrible issues with flooding from people who lived on the banks of the river. This dam also helps with irrigation, and it was extremely controversial because it caused archaeological sites to become submerged, and they had to be relocated. For those same reasons, it caused nearly 100,000 people on the banks to need to be relocated. On our second day, we will visit the island temple Elephantine. It is named after the Egyptian god Abu in Greek. The main temple of the island is dedicated to the Egyptian ram god, but there are many other temples and shrines that can be observed. Nowadays, there are 2 villages on this island and even a resort where tourists can stay. We will be taking a cruise there on an Egyptian felucca boat for $25. Next in the day, we will visit the Abu Simbel temples. These were made to commemorate Ramses II in his victory in the Battle of Kadesh. Fought over land, this battle was believed to have been the largest chariot-involved battle in all of history. Some of the smaller temples are dedicated to the family of Ramses II, like his wife. These temples were actually carved in the cliff along the Nile River, and as a result, took 20 years to construct. Created as a result of the high dam, our next attraction on the second day is one of the most beautiful artificial lakes, Lake Nasser. A popular activity here is to fish for the Nile perch that reside in this lake. On the second day, we can also visit the unfinished obelisk in Aswan at the granite quarries. Many projects were created in order to be moved to other places at the granite quarries. One of them was the obelisk, but due to a large crack, it was never moved. Despite being unfinished, this obelisk is actually the largest in Egypt. On our third day, we will also be visiting the Nubian villages. Here you will encounter locals, so it is important to be respectful and tip well. We will be eating local cuisine and street food and visiting many shops, so make sure you bring souvenir money. In a similar vein, we will also visit the old market. Here they sell clothes, textiles, and even artifacts. Towards the end of our third day, we will head to the Aswan Botanical Garden on Kitchener's Island. Located on the island in the Nile River and created over 100 years ago by an Egyptian lord, the garden is 7 hectares. For $29, we will go on a cruise of the Nile that drops us right on the Botanical Garden Island on another felucca boat. The garden is filled with birds and plants from all over Africa and India. On our fourth and final day in Aswan, we will be visiting the Aga Khan Mausoleum. Aga Khan was one of the founders of the All India Muslim League, president of the League of Nations, and a spiritual leader. He was extremely wealthy, and when he died, his wife took control of the building of the mausoleum to honor him. The mausoleum is only accessible by river, and we will take a ferry for about $30. The hike to get there is very steep, and all visitors must remain silent out of respect. After the mausoleum, we will visit the temple of Kom Ombo. This temple is unusual because it is actually a double temple. Half is dedicated to the crocodile god of fertility, and half is dedicated to the falcon god, Horus the Elder. The temple contains a crocodile museum with crocodile mummies, a sphinx statue, and the bust of a Roman emperor. Next in the day, we will visit the monastery of Saint Simon. Built and maintained between the 7th and 10th centuries and surrounded by desert sands, the monastery actually has 2 levels. To get there, we will hire a private boat to cross the Nile, which should cost about $30. We will hike up and view the cells that monks used to live in and graffiti that has been left by Muslim travelers throughout the millennia. Next, we'll eat dinner at the restaurant Al Doka, which is situated on an island in the Nile River. With vegan and vegetarian options, this restaurant is rated 4 stars and serves Nubian cuisine and barbecue food.
Our next stop is Alexandria, and the plane ticket will cost $434. Founded by Alexander the Great, Alexandria was the capital of Egypt for nearly 1,000 years. Alexandria is both a main port and economic center for Egypt. We will be staying in the Sea Star Hotel for 3 nights at $17 a night. The hotel has free Wi-Fi and is just a couple-minute drive from the beach. We will be spending the night at the hotel. The next morning, we will visit the Library of Alexandria. The burning of the Library of Alexandria took place only decades after colonization of Egypt by the Roman Empire. During a Roman civil war, ships were burned by Caesar to create a blockade against the opposition. This fire spread to the city and the library, partially destroying it. The library contains some of the oldest books in the world, founded under the Roman Empire. Intellectuals like Plato had been found to visit it. The texts in the library contained work from Greek philosophers and the Egyptian priests. Admissions to the library is only $1.50. The next day, we will visit the Souk district, in which locals sell antiques, textiles, and other goods. In the Souk district, you can haggle with shopkeepers and buy extravagant goods. Make sure to bring souvenir money. After the Souk district, we will be visiting the Citadel of Qubayt, where entry is only $3. It was built in 1477 under the Sultan al-Sharif Safiya al-Din Qaid Bey to protect Egypt from the Ottoman Empire. It was actually built on the remains of the destroyed lighthouse, eventually taken over by the Ottomans. It would later be taken over yet again by Napoleon and the French. After this, we will return to our hotel for tonight. Next morning, we will visit the Mustafa Kemal Atatürk necropolis, which was discovered when ground was leveled for football field. There are 4 sub-Saharan tombs, which are colorful and contain inscriptions. The tomb contains altars, sphinx, and human remains. Next on day 2 is the catacombs of Komal el-Sharafa. These catacombs were discovered in 1900 when a wandering traveler on a camel found unstable grounds and fell into the catacombs. The catacombs contained shrines to Gecko Egyptian gods, including Haze, or an underworld god. The names of the catacombs actually translate to Mount of Shards because it was originally found with pottery shards all over the insides. The next day, we will be visiting Pompous Pillar, next to a Sphinx. The pillar stands 25 meters tall, built under Emperor Deucalion. It was actually once used to store manuscripts of the Library of Alexandria. After this, we will visit the Roman Amphitheater. This was stumbled upon when the area was being excavated for housing. During the Roman Empire, this would have been used for performances and shows. After this, we will return to our hotel. Next morning, we'll visit the Mosaic Palace. This palace overlooks the coast and is a mix of Turkish and Florentine architecture. Built by a relative of the current king, the palace has been transformed into a museum. The gardens of the palace are about 3,000 meters, and the palace contains a hotel, ancient relics, and even a casino. We will briefly visit the Alexandria Unknown Soldier Memorial, dedicated to soldiers who have lost their lives in the battle. It was built during the rule of Muhammad Ali, and it is over 100 years old. Later on, we will visit the Ras el-Atin Palace, the residence of the Egyptian president, El-King, to the White House of America. This palace was constructed in 1834 and took 13 years to build. It is 3 floors high and also functions in a military capacity. Finally, in the third day, we will visit the Alexandria Museum. The museum is of Italian architecture and is divided into sections based on time periods. The museum tells the story of Egypt, particularly in Alexandria, since ancient times. On our fourth day, we will visit the Greco-Roman Museum, which focuses on the history of Egypt during Roman rule. This museum is widely considered the oldest in Alexandria and contains a vast array of artifacts. After this, we will visit the Antique Museum, which was founded in 2002 and contains over 1,000 artifacts. It focuses on a period of Alexander the Great, who conquered a large portion of Egypt. Finally, in the last day, we will be scuba diving in the ruins of Cleopatra's Palace. For only $300, we can see the remains of ancient Egyptian rulers, Cleopatra. As queen during the Ptolemaic period, she was the last ruler of ancient Egypt. Beginning her rule at 18, she claims to be a physical embodiment of the Egyptian god Isis. In the evening, we'll fly back to Chicago, then take the train to Minneapolis. And that concludes our trip. We hope you will be very excited to come with us to visit Egypt.